بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Islamic theory of knowledge or epistemology. In the last session, we talked a little bit about the historical background of epistemology. And we said that questions of epistemology have been there always, at least from ancient, Greece. We had people who were thinking about these issues, and also in East. But as a separate and independent discipline, we said it's not very old. And then we talked about definition of knowledge and definition of theory of knowledge or epistemology, what we mean by ma'rifat shanasi or ilmul ma'rifa or theory of knowledge. Then we talked about attitude of Muslim thinkers and philosophers about theory of knowledge. Then we talked about possibility of ma'rifa, and now we want to continue. The main question is, what is the way to understand whether a proposition is true or false? How we can understand truth of a statement? This is the main question. But in order to address this question, we need to go step by step. First of all, we said we need to distinguish between two types of knowledge. Knowledge by presence, or what we call al-maahuwiyyah, in Arabic al-ilm al-huduri, and knowledge which is through concepts. Some people may translate as acquired knowledge, but I prefer to say conceptual knowledge, ilm husuli, al-ilm al-husuli. Knowledge by presence, which is very much developed in Islamic philosophy, although there are roots of that in other philosophies, but not that much developed and emphasized on like Islamic philosophy. Knowledge by presence is something which actually doesn't need that much of discussion in theory of knowledge, in the sense that it's beyond question, because we mean by knowledge by presence a type of knowledge which is not through mental images. There is nothing between us and what is known. When my knowledge of what is known is through an image, then there is a question: does that image really correspond to what is outside? For example, I see a flower, but when I see a flower in my garden, I don't have direct knowledge. Even if I go very close to that flower, even if I touch the flower and I smell the flower, seeing, touching, smelling at the same time, it still doesn't make my knowledge of that flower immediate and direct. Still through images. And when we say images, images are not only images for things which are seen. You have images of smells, images of, you know, soft touch, hard touch, etc. Okay, all the senses have their own mental images. So you have to be careful when you say image. It's not just necessarily, it's like, you know, file in computer. It can be a file for audio, it can be for video, it can be picture, it can be document. We call all of them file. These files in our mind are صور ذهنية. These صور ذهنية are like pictures, but pictures or images of what can be sound, what can be smell, what can be taste. Okay, so in ilm huduri there is no such a thing between us and what is known. When I'm enjoying something, that feeling of pleasure is direct. So in this kind of knowledge there is no issue. We don't need, you know, that much help from experts on theory of knowledge to help us achieve certainty here. We are certain about these things. The main problem is about ilm husuli. But then inshallah we have to explain what kind of ilm husuli, because not every kind of ilm husuli also has such need for theory of knowledge. Before we go to ilm husuli, let us a little bit expand on ilm huduri. It seems that although Farabi had talked about ilm huduri, but Ibn Sina was the one who managed to expand more on ilm huduri. And maybe some people say he was the person that very explicitly and clearly developed nazariye ma'rifat huzuri, knowledge by presence, as a kind of theory. He developed it, he explicitly talked about this. Then the main thing that Ibn Sina was emphasizing on was our knowledge about ourselves. He was saying this is ilm huduri. And according to him, with this knowledge by presence, we can start with building and laying foundations of knowledge. Sheikh Ishraq, Sheikh Shahabuddin Suhrawardi, he expanded on ilm huduri. He said, in addition to our knowledge of ourselves, our knowledge of our cause and our effects are also ilm huduri. Therefore you can have ilm huduri of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah has ilm huduri about us because we are His effects. Or your knowledge about your mental images, this is ilm huduri, yeah, about mental images themselves, not about what they show. Because every mental image has two aspects. One is acting as a mirror reflecting something outside, that is ilm husuli. But your knowledge of the mental image itself as something that exists in you, in your mind, this is ilm huduri. And this is why ulama say this is ma'loom bil-dhat. What is known outside is ma'loom bil-araf, because this is known to you and is present for you. So Sheikh Ishraq said, in addition to our ma'rifah about ourselves, our ma'rifah about our cause, about our effects are also included in ilm huduri. And our actions which are inside, like thinking, making decision, attention, knowledge. These are also all ilm huzuri. If you want to give then a more developed list that other later philosophers have worked on it and completed, then we can say that ilm huzuri includes these things. So we mentioned 6 types of things. 1, knowledge about ourselves. I'm not saying every knowledge about ourselves. For example, am I healthy or ill? Oh, this is ilm husuli. I have to go to doctor, I have to go to laboratory, I have to take tests, I have to consider symptoms. I'm not saying this kind of knowledge about yourself. What is your weight? What is your height? This is not ilm huzuri. When we say knowledge about yourself, means knowledge about your identity. You say me. That's simple. That is not, divided into your body. That is simple. That is something that even, God forbid, if you lose parts of your body, remains intact. You cannot say right side of me or left side of me. You can say right side of my body or left side of my body, but you as a reality don't have right, left, top, bottom. There is no such things in your reality. So the first type of ilm huzuri is knowledge that every person has about himself or herself, and finds that he or she is there. And we all the time are thinking about ourselves. Number 2, knowledge about our faculties, whether it be for idrak, for perception, for understanding, whether it be for moving, tahrik. So there are different parts of body responsible for moving. So you can use your muscles to move, but your knowledge of muscles is husuli. But your knowledge of the, like a control room. You have a control room, which over there, all these faculties are controlled and managed. So you know that you can understand, you know that you can move, you have some ability to exercise, power. You would never make a mistake between these things. For example, if you want to think and use your al-quwwat al-idrakiyya, the faculty for perception and understanding, you would not mistakenly start walking. You understand that these are different. You cannot make mistake here because these are known by ilm huzuri. Third group of those things which are known by ilm huzuri are the conditions of soul, like emotions, feelings. For example, you like something. You may make mistake about whether I should like that person or not. That's another issue. We are not talking about that. For example, maybe someone likes something harmful. For example, likes to smoke. We are not saying this is not mistaken. We are saying that feeling of liking something, that is known by ilm huzuri, and that is not mistaken. You really like it, but whether you should like it or not is another issue. Maybe you like lots of sugar. Whether this is right for your health or not, that's another issue. But this is not mistaken that you like, you feel attraction towards sugar, for example. Or you feel sad. Sometimes people easily feel sad. Sometimes people, don't easily feel sad. This is another issue. Our question is, sadness is something which is known through al-maahuwiyyah. There's a beautiful point I want you, listen carefully. When you are sad and your friend is sad, what's the difference? For example, both of you have heard a very bad news and you are very sad, both of you. Sadness of your friend is known to you by al-mahuwiyyah. Either you see on his face the signs of sadness, or because you know him already, you know that he must be sad. So through rational or seeing, hearing, for example, is crying, through these things you establish that he is sad. Okay? And sometimes we may make mistakes. Maybe, for example, you think someone is sad but he's happy. These are tears of joy, for example. Or maybe someone is pretending to be sad. So we can make mistake. But when you are sad, it's not just that this is your sadness and that was his sadness. No. In addition to this, your understanding of your sadness is different from your understanding of his sadness. Your understanding of his sadness is al-mahuwiyyah, but your understanding of your sadness is what? Is al-maahuwiyyah. This cannot be mistaken. You feel there's a big difference between when you are yourself sad or you want to say someone else is sad, even if it's very close to you. Al-maahuwiyyah is that close to us that there is no medium, there is nothing in between. So, feelings about love, about sadness, about fear, when you are fearful about something, joy, all these are known by al-maahuwiyyah, although you can also put them into propositional form and make them al-maahuwiyyah. For example, if you say, I am sad, I feel sad, this is al-maahuwiyyah. This is like taking a picture, making a report of al-maahuwiyyah. Here mistakes can happen in interpretation. Fourth, our knowledge about immediate actions of ourselves, those actions which happen inside, like irade, you will something. You have irade for example, going to this place and you start moving. Your knowledge of your irada, your will, is al-maahuwiyyah. Or you judge. You judge. Say, this is true, this is correct, this is right, this is wrong. Or thinking, contemplation, or paying attention. When you are paying attention to that something, anything, is known to you through al-maahuwiyyah. 5. Your knowledge about your origin, your cause, your creator. This is also al-maahuwiyyah. But the only thing is that we discuss this in Ma'arif al-Quran. The only thing is that effect has al-maahuwiyyah of Allah, but in a very limited way. Allah has al-maahuwiyyah of ma'lul and knows everything about ma'lul. But ma'lul knows only about his connection and his reliance and relation. So he knows limited amount of things about Allah. Like, for example, imagine a teacher has different students. Just to simplify, one student studies fiqh, one studies philosophy, one studies akhlaq. So whatever knowledge they have received from teacher, they know that much about the teacher, but they don't know about other aspects of his teaching, for example. Okay, so I, as ma'lul, can understand something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I cannot understand everything about, for example, his creation of galaxies. I don't know that. Yes, I can know that he has great knowledge, but how much, I don't know, because ma'lul has limited, connection to Allah, unlike the other way around. So this is also al-maahuwiyyah, and Orafan have this kind of knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't feel any separation. 6, knowledge about concepts and mental images. This is also al-maahuwiyyah, as I have explained to you. The image itself is known to you through al-maahuwiyyah. So there are 6 types of things that are known through al-maahuwiyyah. Al-maahuwiyyah has no need for mental images or concept to occur between the knower and what is known, and also are free from mistakes, because there is nothing in between. Let us now move to al-maahuwiyyah. This is where our main discussion starts. Al-maahuwiyyah also has different types. We have to focus on where is the main concern. So one division of al-maahuwiyyah is to divide it into tasawwur and tasdiq. Tasawwur is conception. Mafhum also can be said. Mafhum, concept, is also tasawwur. Tasdiq is affirmation. You can also say qadiyya, proposition, because although they are different things, but the discussion from epistemological point of view is the same. We are talking about tasawwurat or mafaahim, or tasdiqat, or propositions. Propositions involve tasdiq. Okay, now tasawwurat are divided into kulli and juz'i. In logic you studied tasawwur or mafhum is either kulli or juz'i. Kulli means universal. Allah has given human beings the ability to understand kulliyat, universal concepts, although kulliyat don't exist outside. Yeah, we never have kulliyat outside. Kulliyat are only in our mind. For example, you say something is mawzu, subject or predicate. It's kulli. Something is jins or fast or no. This is in mind only, because these are universal, these are possible to become predicates, these are in mind. Insan, human beings, have ability to understand kulliyat. Some of these kulliyat have connection with our his. For example, with his, with our, say, seeing. We see few rose flowers and then we come up with the universal concept of rose flower. We see Zayd and Amr and Bakr, we come up with the universal concept of human being. But sometimes maybe it has nothing to do with our senses. For example, jinns fast know, doesn't need any sensual knowledge. In any case, idrakul kulliyat is one of the advantages and merits of human beings. But we have also mafaahim juz'i that can only be applied to one case, one instance. In Bidayatul Hikmah and Nihayatul Hikmah, we talked about this, that of course juz'i can only be really juz'i because of connection with existence. Otherwise, if you add thousands of concepts to each other, still it doesn't become juz'i, it becomes kulli. For example, you say the person who at 2 p.m. in this room sits on this chair on this day, for example, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, you bring lots of things. Who is man, who is young, who is tall, who is poet. You can add many things, but still it's kulli. Even if only one person in the world has these characteristics, or even if there is no one to fulfill these characteristics, it is kulli. Yeah, sometimes there is kulli who has no misdaq, no instance. Like sharikul bari. Sharikul bari is kulli, but has no instance and cannot have instance. Or mumkin, like dinosaur. Dinosaur is mumkin, but at the moment there is no dinosaur. Even wajibul wujud is kulli. Mafhum wajibul wujud is kulli. And therefore we have to prove that there is only one wajibul wujud. Otherwise mafhum is kulli. The only thing that can bring tashakhus, can make something really one, is existence, not concept, because concepts are kulli. In any case, one division of ilm husul is to tasawwur and tasdiq. Then tasawwur is divided into kulli and juz'i. Now, kulliyat are divided into different categories, and they can be actually divided different ways. Something that we need for theory of knowledge, very useful. You know, those that we studied Sharh Manzuma together, you remember we said that this is again another thing which is very developed in Islamic philosophy and is rarely receiving enough attention in some Western philosophies, about ma'qulat al-thaniya falsafi. If you remember, I mentioned this. So let us see what is the classification of mafaahim kulli. Mafaahim kulli can be divided into three groups. Al-mafaahim al-maahuwiyyah, which are ma'qulat ula. The first thing that we can understand through intellection, through ta'aqqul, is mafhum al-maahuwi or ma'qul ula. Mafahim al-maahuwi are mahiyat. Mahiyat are like castes, like containers. They are in mind, and when something exists, it means that they are filled with existence. If you want to simplify, they are like container, like qalib, like form. Existence fills this. These are just shape, these are boundaries. Hudud al-wujud. Mafahim al-maahuwi are about hudud al-wujud, actually where wujud ends. Okay, and this is why wajib al-wujud has no mahiyya, because has no limit, no end. La hadda lahu. So mafahim al-maahuwi are the things that we all are dealing with. Whether you are a philosopher or not, whether you are educated or not, we always are dealing with these things. For example, you say human beings, you say water, tree, paper, sugar, car, road, rain, day, night. These are all maahuwi. Okay? And one of the good things about maahuwi is that, makes it clear, is that they do hikayah of something outside. Maybe they don't have mistaq, maybe they don't have mabih al-izah, maybe there is nothing outside, but the way they function is that they want to portray something outside. It's like a mirror that reflects. We say hikayat. In philosophy, you say hikayah, and then there is mahki. It means they relay, they portray something. And remember, this is another important point. Every being, I repeat, every being can only have one mafhum maahuwi, not two, not three, at the same level. You can have hierarchical concepts, for example, you can say it is insan, it is haywan, it is jism, it is jawhar. This is hierarchy. Actually, these are all included in insan. But you cannot find anything which has alternative mafaahim maahuwi at the same time. We can have human being, we can have horse, we can have cow, but separately. You cannot find a being which has two of them. Okay? Every being has only one mafhum maahuwi. Every finite being. Allah has no mahiyya. Then we have ma'qulat al-thaniyah, secondary intelligibles. And this is when mind works on the first type of concepts for a second time. And of course, when we say second, can be third or fourth. So sanawi means not primary. Anything which is not ula is sanawi. Okay? So, our mind can work on these primary intelligibles, ma'qulat ula, again, and come up with ma'qulat thaniya. Ma'qulat thaniya then doesn't need to be one for one. Even from one being, maybe we can have abstracted, intiza, abstraction. We can have abstracted different concepts. Secondary intelligibles by themselves are divided into two: logical and philosophical secondary intelligibles. Al-ma'qulat al-thaniyah al-mantiqiyyah, logical secondary intelligibles, are kulli, definitely. We are talking about kulliyat. But the thing is that they can never be applied to something outside because they are really kulli. So their ittisaf and uruz both occur in mind. What does it mean? It means that when you say al-insanu naw'un, naw'iyya is something that in mind can be conceived and can be used as a predicate for insan. It's in mind. In the external world, we don't have naw'ul insan. We have afradul insan, ahadul insan, ashkhasul insan. We have individual instances, but as a universal concept, it's only in the mind. Kulli, juz'i, no, jins, fasl, even say mafhum, these are all in mind. These are ma'qul, thaniya, mantiqi. Secondary intelligibles, which are falsafi, which are philosophical, they can be applied to the things outside, but they are not maahuwi, so they can be applied to them, but not from the same way that ma'qul maahuwi is applied. Mafhum maahuwi, when it's applied to something, it refers to its mahiyya as a whole. But mafahim falsafi, they are applied as indicators of what we call anha'ul wujud, shu'unul wujud, types of existence, modes of existence, not as haddul wujud, which is mahiyya. So there is a difference between saying to Zayd, Zaydun insanun, or Zaydun, for example, mumkinun. When I say Zayd insanun, insan is mafhum maahuwi. When I say Zayd mumkinun, mumkin is ma'qul saniya falsafi. I cannot put any mahiyya next to insan, either insan or not insan. Okay, as I said, only one thing can be applied to Zayd, for example, or anything. But mafahim sana'i falsafi can be many. I can say Zayd is mawjud, Zayd is mumkin, Zayd is wahid, Zayd is bil fi'l, Zayd is ma'lul. I can say all. Zayd is mutaqaddam, Zayd is mutaakhir. Even Zayd can be illa, no problem. Ma'qulat saniya falsafi can be applied at the same time to the same thing. So we have three types of mafahim kulli. To refresh your mind, so we started with ilm husuli being tasawwur or tasdiq. Tasawwur is mafhum. We said mafahim are either juz'i or kulli. Kulliyat are either maahuwi or ma'qul thaniya mantiqi or ma'qul thaniya falsafi. These things by themselves have no truth or false value. Yeah, mafhum as such is neither true nor false. Can you say mafhum insan is true or false, or mafhum dinosaur is true or false? Mafhum has no meaning. Mafhum sharik al-bari is true or false? No. Mafhum has no truth or false value. Qaziyya or tasdiq can be true or false. Even if you put few concepts without hukm, without a judgment, still is not true or false. For example, we say my book or my grammar book, the person over there, still there is no hukm and there is no truth or false attached to it. But if there is tasdiq, when you say A is B or A is not B, then it can be true or false. Of course, tasdiq even can be negative. When we say A is B, you need to have hukm. When you say A is not B, again you have to judge. If it is as a question, it's not tasdiq. Is A B or not B? I don't know. I have no judgment. This is not tasdiq. Question is insha, is not ikhbar, so doesn't have truth value. Okay, it has to be ikhbar, to be a statement. Also, qadaya can be qadaya hamliye or shartiye, but shartiye also goes back to hamliye. We don't want to go to logic. Sometimes say no. If there is sun, it's bright or it's warm. This is qadiyya shartiya, but in reality it means it is warm, but upon the condition that sun is there. So it's again hamliya and can have truth or false value. So to make it short, or to summarize, ilm husuli has two parts. One is tasawwur, one is tasdiq. Tasawwur or mafhum can be juz'i or kulli. Kulli can be maahuwiyya, ma'qul thaniya, mantiqi, ma'qul thaniya, falsafi. These we don't need to discuss them directly because there is no truth or false about them. But we need them very much because when we are talking about tasdiqat, these tasdiqat are made of mafaahim, either on the side of mawzu or mahmul. So we will talk about these things later, but just remember that tasdiqat are our main discussion, not tasawwurat. Okay? But when we want to say how we can say this subject has this predicate, then depending on what type of subject, is it mahuwi, is it sanawi, etc., we can have different ways to talk about them. So tasdiqat are the main issues that we need to discuss in epistemology. Now there is another classification, this time for tasdiqat or for qadaya. Tasdiqat or qadaya can be divided into tahlili or tarkibi. Tahlili means analytic. Tarkibi means synthetic. Tarkibi or ta'lifi means synthetic. What is an analytic proposition? An analytic proposition is when predicate is included in the subject and you are just bringing part of the subject out and using as a predicate. For example, if you say every father is a man, to be father means to be a man who has married, who has a child. Yeah, this is the meaning of father. Father must be a man who is married and who has a child. So when I say every father is a man, I am not adding anything to the concept of father. I am not giving you a new information. Am I giving you a new information so that you can say it's true or false? No, there's no new information, so they cannot say it's true or false. It's definitely true. Yes, you can say it's true, but definitely true. Because I just brought something out of the subject. Every father is a man. Okay? This is called qaziyye tahliliye, analytic proposition. These are very important. Even analytic philosophers, they think whole philosophy is more a matter of understanding relations between concepts. They try to bring concepts from outside from other concepts, etc. But the thing is that these are very limited in giving information. We need something to tell us about what is happening outside. From analytic propositions, we cannot find that much about outside. For example, father is a man. Okay, is there a father here or not? Do we have any father? How many fathers we have? Are they good? Are they bad? These are not things that we can understand through analytic propositions. Then we have synthetic propositions, and that is where mahmul is not just part of the subject, it's coming out of the world, it's a new information. It's not just extracted or taken from the subject. It's new. For example, we say this father is very educated. To be educated for a father is not included in the concept of father. Another classification, let me say another classification, then we continue discussion inshallah next week, is to divide prepositions into a priori and a posteriori. Sometimes in Farsi we say ما تقدم و ما تأخر، قضایای ما تقدم or ما تأخر or قضایای پیشینی و قضایای پسینی. پیشینی is like ما تقدم, a priori. There are prepositions that you know before experiment, before experience, before observation, before trying to find the external world, you can know a priori. Like mathematics, like logic, some parts of philosophy. Even if you don't have knowledge about the external world or have very limited knowledge, still this can work. But sometimes they depend on experience. You cannot know in advance. You have to go and find out. You have to establish through experiment. Those which are a priori, then they are to be understood without any exception. Because if you understand them well, they must be all the time true. They have no exception. But those which are to be learned from experience, sometimes you make a claim, then you find a counterexample, naqd. Then you have to modify it. In experience, in experiment, in observation, there are always chances of you coming across new examples, new cases. Then you have to modify, you have to adjust your theory, limit it to certain, I don't know, place, temperature, pressure, etc. But in a priori propositions, it's through aql, and aql doesn't accept exceptions. Either aql makes a judgment or doesn't make judgment. What we need, my last point, what we need to really discuss is there a way that we can establish truth of prepositions which are synthetic and a priori? This is the core. If they are not synthetic and just analytic, it's good, but they don't give us information about outside. If they are synthetic but only a posteriori, then the problem is that they depend on experience, and experience can maybe not give us certainty. So we want to see whether we can have a priori knowledge about the world. Inshallah, bi'iznillah, we continue this discussion next week. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So we will have a little break, and then inshallah we will start the next class, inshallah. I don't know, how many of you are in the next class?
Sheikh, in the next class, I don't know, I think the group of people who are studying philosophy major are not included in the next class.
Okay, so you are not there?
Unfortunately, not.
Okay, التماس يا
Sir, sorry, I had a question. You said there's another classification in tasdiq. You mentioned the first one, which was the analytical prepositions.